Imagine waking to the sound of rain pounding the ground above you. Not for an hour, not for a day, but for an entire week. Every step outside sinks into thick mud. Your fire is gone, your clothes are soaked. The air itself feels cold enough to steal your body heat. There are no waterproof jackets, no dry cabins, no supermarkets waiting after the storm. Yet for nearly 300,000 years, humans survived exactly these conditions across Europe, Asia, and Africa. In fact, some prehistoric groups lived through climates far wetter than many places on Earth today. During parts of the Pleistocene epoch, rainfall could continue for weeks, while temperatures stayed just above freezing. That sounds impossible because your brain assumes one simple rule: rain means shelter. But ancient humans couldn't always stay sheltered. Sometimes they had to hunt in it, sleep in it, raise children in it, and somehow they survived. The secret wasn't being stronger than you. It was understanding something about water that most modern people never have to think about. By the end of this video, you'll see rain less as bad weather and more as one of the greatest survival tests that shaped the human body, the human mind, and perhaps civilization itself. In 1944, American physiologist Ansel Keys began studying what happened when the human body lost energy faster than it could replace it. His famous Minnesota starvation experiment focused on food, but it revealed something equally important. Cold dramatically increases the number of calories your body burns simply trying to stay alive. Add constant rain to that equation, and the problem becomes much worse. Water conducts heat roughly 25 times faster than air. That means clothes or animal skins that become soaked stop trapping warm air against your body. Even at temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius, prolonged exposure to rain can trigger hypothermia if you're wet and unable to generate enough heat. Ancient humans didn't know the word hypothermia, but they knew exactly what happened when someone stayed wet for too long. They became slower, less alert, less able to hunt. Then eventually, they stopped moving altogether. Rain wasn't dangerous because it fell from the sky. Rain was dangerous because it quietly stole energy every minute it touched your skin. Every decision became an energy calculation. Was gathering wood worth getting soaked? Was hunting worth crossing an open valley? Was moving camp worth leaving the little shelter you already had? Modern survival experts often repeat one rule above all others: stay dry. But for prehistoric people, staying completely dry was often impossible. So they developed a different strategy. Instead of avoiding rain, they learned how to survive while already wet. Archaeological discoveries at Terra Amata near Nice, France, suggest that humans were building shelters as early as 400,000 years ago. The site contains stone tools, hearths, and post holes that may mark the outlines of simple huts. They weren't houses in the modern sense. They were temporary structures built just well enough to reduce wind, preserve warmth, and protect precious fires. That last detail mattered more than almost anything else. Fire wasn't simply for cooking. It was a machine for drying. Wet hides became usable again beside it. Spears dried before they warped. Damp bedding became warm enough to sleep on. And perhaps most importantly, people themselves recovered body heat before dangerous cooling set in. Archaeologists have repeatedly found ancient hearths surrounded by layers of burned bone, charcoal, and stone tools. Those circles weren't random. They were survival zones. Every evening, families gathered around the one thing standing between life and freezing exhaustion. Keeping that fire alive through heavy rain may have been one of the most valuable skills any member of the group possessed, because once the fire died, everything became harder. Except there was one problem. During days of relentless rain, finding dry wood could become almost impossible. So how did ancient humans keep fires burning when the entire forest seemed soaked? In 2018, archaeologists studying prehistoric campsites in Schöning in Germany noticed something unusual about where ancient fires were built. Hearths were rarely placed in the lowest parts of the landscape. Even a small rise in elevation could mean the difference between soaked ground and soil that drained just well enough to stay usable. Ancient humans were reading the landscape in ways most of us no longer notice. A gentle slope shed rainwater. Thick tree canopies intercepted part of the rainfall. Rock overhangs redirected wind and trapped warmth. Shelter wasn't just a cave. It was any place that slowed the loss of heat. That mattered because dry wood almost never disappeared completely. It simply became harder to find. Dead branches trapped beneath dense evergreen trees often remained surprisingly dry. Standing dead trees dried faster than fallen logs because air could circulate around them. The inner heartwood of larger branches frequently stayed usable, even after days of rain. Modern bushcraft instructors still teach these techniques. Ancient humans had no choice but to master them. Once suitable wood was found, they faced another challenge: protecting the flame itself. Evidence from multiple prehistoric hearths suggests fires were carefully maintained rather than constantly rebuilt. Instead of allowing flames to burn out completely, people preserved glowing embers beneath thick layers of ash. Ash acted like insulation. Hours later, those hidden embers could still ignite fresh tinder with far less effort than starting from nothing. Ethnographic studies of hunter-gatherer societies, including the Hadza of Tanzania and Australia's Aboriginal peoples, show similar practices lasting into recent centuries. Fire wasn't treated as something you created. It was something you carried through time. Every morning began not by making fire, but by waking it. Yet even a perfect fire couldn't solve the next problem. Rain changed the behavior of the animals themselves. Around 20,000 years ago, during the last glacial maximum, much of Europe supported enormous herds of reindeer, horses, and bison. Rain altered where these animals traveled, rested and grazed. Hunters had to adapt with them. Wet ground preserved footprints far better than dry soil. Every hoofprint became fresh information. Broken branches, crushed grass, and muddy tracks lasted longer after rainfall. What looked like miserable weather was also a giant map. Archaeologists studying Upper Paleolithic hunting sites believe experienced trackers could estimate not only direction, but also how recently an animal had passed. Rain erased old signs while highlighting new ones. In a strange way, the storm simplified the landscape, but hunting carried another hidden advantage. Moving generated heat. Sitting still inside shelter conserved energy, but it also allowed body temperature to drop. Walking, climbing, and tracking helped muscles produce warmth from within. The challenge was balancing movement with exhaustion. Burn too many calories, and starvation became the threat. Stay still for too long, and the cold slowly won instead. Survival was rarely about making the perfect decision. It was about making the least dangerous one. That balancing act shaped entire groups, not just individuals. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, best known for Dunbar's number, has argued that humans evolved extraordinary social cooperation long before agriculture. Constant rain helps explain why. One person gathering fuel wasn't enough. One hunter wasn't enough. One parent couldn't watch children while repairing shelter, drying hides, and maintaining fire at the same time. Survival demanded overlapping jobs. Some searched for wood, others processed food, others repaired tools damaged by moisture. Someone always stayed with the fire. Archaeological sites, such as Dolní Věstonice in the present-day Czech Republic, reveal repeated occupation by organized communities roughly 30,000 years ago. These weren't random collections of individuals. They were groups capable of sharing labor through difficult seasons. Rain exposed a simple truth about being human. The more hostile the environment became, the more valuable cooperation became. Evolution didn't just reward stronger muscles. It rewarded people who could depend on one another. But perhaps the strangest adaptation wasn't physical at all. It happened inside the human mind. In 2013, neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux summarized decades of research showing that the human brain constantly predicts danger long before you're consciously aware of it. For your prehistoric ancestors, weeks of rain trained that prediction system every single day. They learned to notice tiny changes that most modern people never see. The smell of damp earth could reveal rising groundwater. A shift in wind direction could signal another storm front. The sound of dripping water inside a cave could mean a shelter that was safe yesterday would flood tonight. Rain sharpened attention because missing one detail could carry enormous consequences. Your ancestors weren't simply enduring bad weather. They were constantly updating mental maps of a changing landscape. Which trees stayed dry longest? Which valley flooded first? Which rock overhang kept its fire sheltered from the wind? That knowledge accumulated over hundreds of journeys. Then it was passed to children long before writing ever existed. Memory became a survival tool. Stories became maps. Experience became technology. Evidence from sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa, dated to roughly 100,000 years ago, suggests that humans were already planning far beyond the present moment. They collected pigments, manufactured specialized tools, and returned to familiar shelters again and again. Those repeated occupations reveal something important. Ancient humans didn't simply react to storms. They anticipated them. A dry cave discovered during one season became a destination in the next. A reliable source of stone became part of future travel routes. A stand of trees that provided dry branches during heavy rain became valuable knowledge remembered by the entire group. Survival wasn't built on luck, it was built on preparation. Modern meteorologists use satellites orbiting nearly 36,000 kilometers above Earth to predict incoming weather. Ancient humans used memory, observation, and generations of shared experience. Different tools, the same goal. Eventually, around 12,000 years ago, the climate entered the warmer Holocene epoch. In many regions, people gradually built more permanent settlements, stored food, and constructed shelters that could withstand changing seasons. Rain slowly became less of an existential threat. Roofs replaced rock overhangs. Kilns replaced open hearths. Walls replaced temporary windbreaks. But the instincts shaped over hundreds of thousands of years never completely disappeared. Even today, many people instinctively seek warmth, gather together, and protect sources of light during severe storms. Those reactions feel ordinary, yet they echo behaviors that may have kept entire families alive deep in the Pleistocene. Your comfort with shelter, your urge to dry wet clothes immediately, even the strange sense of relief you feel when hearing rain from inside a safe room. They aren't modern habits, they are ancient ones. The next time rain falls for hours, or even days, you'll probably think of inconvenience. A delayed journey, wet shoes, canceled plans. But for almost 300,000 years, the same sound meant something entirely different. It meant every calorie mattered, every ember mattered, every decision mattered. Because surviving weeks of rain was never about defeating nature. It was about understanding it well enough to lose less heat, waste less energy, and make fewer mistakes than yesterday. And perhaps that's the strangest part of all. When you listen to rain from the comfort of your home, you're hearing the same weather that once decided whether your ancestors would still be alive when the clouds finally cleared.